Good morning. Good evening, sorry. Tonight on Cast Space with myself, I am Kat. As always, with me is Buckets, Leon from Wales, Aaron, and Luna. Tonight's special episode is a somber tribute to Australiana, to Australian icons, for fallen icons who recently passed, like Barry Humphries, Damon the Average. So we are going back in time to history and asking the deep questions. Make sure you subscribe and follow. Let's start. My Our first question for tonight is: are we losing Australiana? Who wants to go first?
Um, are you saying are we losing the Australian honor?
Are we losing Australiana?
I think we are slowly. I think that what we identify as Australian icons, is slowly being lost because they're all dying off, such as the great Barry Humphries that recently passed away. And I also think that because we're a really multicultural country, and it's almost like we have to reach out to a bigger audience to make more money. We're kind of losing a part of ourselves. So I think, yes, we are losing that part of Australiana, unfortunately. What does everyone else think?
I actually think that they're both correct. Like, as we evolve, of course, we're going to lose a certain aspect of our culture that's now upgrading itself. The Australian culture included in the past some pretty, I'm not going to say for its time it wasn't racist, but from our point of view in this day and age, it's racist. Racist or sexist or whatever it is, feminist. There's a lot of jokes along those lines that just don't fit in with today's society. So in that aspect, yes, we are losing part of Australiana. But I do believe that we're upgrading to something better. I think we're moving forward, definitely.
Aaron?
Well, I'd say you are losing a fair bit of Australiana, because obviously you lost Barry Humphries, you lost Shane Warne, and I agree with Luna because it's upgrading to like the stars of today. Does that make sense?
And there's also we have to remember that there's gonna be newcomers that come along sooner or later. I mean, before Barry Humphries, there must have been someone, and there will be someone after as well that is as equal of fame and status in Australia.
What about you, Leon?
I definitely think we are losing the generation, that say people like yourself and myself grew up with, Kat, because we're not far away from the same age, and we grew up with a different generation of entertainment, and unfortunately we're losing those members from that generation. There's a new generation up and coming. There's always going to be that, but will this new generation take the risks to entertain like the previous generation would? That's my concern, because how many of the old generations have we lost now?
Let's count it. Let's count it. I reserve my view till the end. We've lost Graham Kennedy. We've lost Bert Newton.
Guys, there's too many to name, really. I mean, Olivia Newton-John, everyone from old like television. I mean,
Shane Warne.
They're so old now, they've gone.
Even the style of television, like for example, I remember when Red Faces, Hey Hey It's Saturday, which is probably the most iconic Australian
best show.
That was cancelled, and I remember when it was cancelled because they thought it was too racist, and I was like, but this is just Australiana. But unfortunately, because Australia is changing and becoming a bit more sensitive, you can't just have those shows on anymore. And in fact, so I remember when Harry Connick, they thought they would get Harry Connick Jr. on because he was an old judge that would come on the old Hey Hey It's Saturday. And he effectively, single-handedly destroyed Hey Hey It's Saturday because he called one of the acts racist.
The one thing I'll never forget while you're talking about that Red Faces incident was within minutes of that accusation being flown around by that certain artist who, by the way, is going to be touring again shortly in Australia. That person, that artist, was caught out, in fact, being the exact thing that he was complaining about on US TV.
The thing I want to say for myself, are we losing Australiana? We have lost Australia. In fact, yes, we have.
Look
But-
at all the characters we have lost. I could give you another larrikin who wouldn't be on TV today with the way that it is these days. Ross Higgins. He was Ted Bullpit, aka from Kingswood Country. That show would never be on TV these days. Also, as you guys mentioned, we did lose Graham Kennedy. We've lost Olivia. We've lost Bob Hawke, another larrikin. Also Warney as well. We lost Bert Newton, and also obviously yesterday we've lost Barry Humphrey. That's just a select bunch.
I'd like to bring up the
Oh.
name myself. I'd
Go
love
on.
to bring up the name. I know Luna and Aaron have never heard of him, even though he was from Melbourne. The late, amazing Father Bob. Father Bob was a larrikin. He was a rebel. He was a rule breaker, and he was Australiana. He practically was Australia. He carried Australia on his shoulders. He carried a lot of love on his shoulders, and he didn't care what everyone else said about him, because he just wanted to be the everyday Father Bob. And when he passed a couple of days ago, my heart broke, because he's someone who was a legend in his own right, and who was loved by people who weren't of faith, who were in faith, who didn't declare any faith. Father Bob was loved by so many, including myself. And he's another one. Chrissy Amphlett from the Divinals, a great rock singer. We lost her to breast cancer. I mean, we lost Olivia Newton-John to breast cancer. You know, have we lost Australia? Absolutely.
Well, the real bigger question is that it's interesting that you mentioned the Australian larrikin, and I think that there's always going to be an Australian larrikin somewhere. In this room, I'm an Australian larrikin, and I know I am because I'm a smartass. Okay, and I'm bloody proud of that, by the way. But you know, I mean, that's just our identity. But the issue is like the woke movement destroying the Australian larrikin, because a lot of things that you could say in the 80s, which are perfectly fine and perfectly laughable and people understood were a joke, aren't considered funny anymore, unfortunately. And I think that one of the great things about Australia that has come out of Australia is Aussie humor, Aussie comedy. And Aussie comedy is actually very political. I've noticed we make fun of our politicians a lot. It's almost like it's our right to do so. I know in a lot of countries they don't have that same sort of right, but in Australia we do, and that's you know, that's kind of a very unique thing that we have, as opposed to American comedy, which is slightly similar but slightly different. But I don't want that to ever end, kind of thing, purely because it's against someone's belief system, or against someone's you know, recognition of, you know, not recognition is the wrong word, because someone's too sensitive. I would hate for that to happen.
Okay, you bring up a valid point. Here's the next question. Are we trying too hard to reach an international audience by losing our Australiana identity?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Okay. Are we trying too hard to reach an international audience by losing our Australian identity?
Okay. Well, I'm going to start that off by saying Australia is so multicultural that There's no room that we have to adjust. It's so multicultural here. It's so multicultural. There is not one culture anymore. There is not one thing that people celebrate. It's so many things being celebrated here, being discussed, blah, blah, whatever, that we have no choice but to reach international audiences because, for instance, the Australian Italians that live here are trying to reach the Italian audience. The Australian Chinese that live here are trying to reach the Chinese audience. The Australian Lebanese that are here are trying to reach the Lebanese audience. And that's how we get into those situations, because we have those connections here that are part Australian, part another country. So yes, there's no way around this. It's that they consider Australia as much as like for me, I'm part Italian, do you know what I mean? I consider Australia my home. It's my home. I am Australian, but I am also Italian, and I would try to appease to the Italian market if I had to, and if I had the skills to do that and I knew there was a market over there, I would do it. Yeah.
But the thing is, if you look at some of the hard rockers, like say AC/DC, for example, one of the things that made them so popular, apart from their music, is the fact that they were from Australia and they were different to everyone else. So I can understand the music today is trying to appease to a greater audience and then be the same as everyone else. But if you want a real asset like a diamond, it has to be different. And
of course, and that's where you get international superstars from, Phil, from that really unique personality that everyone, you know, kind of appreciates. And I guess there is, within Australia, there would be some personalities that people like more than some of the other personalities that exist within our culture.
I'll give you an example. Russell Crowe is not Australian. He's from New Zealand, okay? But he established himself as Australian, even though he's not Australian. Everyone is convinced that he's Australian. He speaks Australian, he acts Australian, he drinks like an Australian, but he's not an Australian. He's from New Zealand. And the reason why that is so appealing is because people buy into Australiana as something of great wealth that people can really get into. Mel Gibson was exactly the same thing. Everyone thinks he's born in Australia. He's not. He's born in America.
Okay, let's knock it off.
But he fed into the Australiana type thing.
Okay, let's not go off track. Aaron, you're from Wales. From a Welsh perspective, do you think Australia is trying too hard to reach an international stage? You're losing our.
I think you're trying like a little bit too hard to reach an international audience because for me, I haven't got a clue who like some of the Australian icons are, but with some, like, because obviously they've reached like international status. Like, I know who they are, like Olivia Newton-John or Barry Humphries, or but yeah, I think Australia is trying a little bit too hard to reach an Australian an international audience. Yeah.
Okay, well, Leon, what do you think?
I agree with Aaron because, we are trying to reach an international audience, but there's so much in the world right now. There's a different audience in the world right now where we, I believe, are struggling to keep up with, the types of humor that multicultures like. I think we've been lagging in that category for quite a while now. That's why you don't see, say, many comedy shows on international TV from Australia. The only things that we've got right now, I believe that in the UK right now would be Home and Away in the UK, and a lesser extent, we had Neighbours in the UK as well. But obviously Neighbours been gone for a little while. It's about to come back, by the way, but not the way it was. We've only really got one Australian show, at least in a UK audience right now. I don't know what we've got right now.
We've got Bluey. We've got Bluey going. Bluey is giant over there right now.
Yeah, I didn't think of the kids stuff. You're right.
What else do we have?
Bluey, definitely, yeah.
We have Kath and Kim. That's very
Ah, yeah.
big in the international audience too.
When was the last time we had a Kath and Kim episode?
Well, not for a while, but
Yeah.
they're
I
still
get where
quite
you're going. I
popular.
get where you're going with that one too, by the way, Luna. Yeah. That was good thinking. I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
The other Australiana that we did lose years and years and years ago was Steve Irwin. Everyone in the world from
Yeah.
Australia,
Exactly.
Everybody who knows anybody knows Steve Irwin.
Steve
Look,
Irwin.
it feels to me that all the people that got outside help from the American Hollywood scene have
Yeah.
set the record for what Australia is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Correct, yeah. But the thing is, a lot of these entertainment industries, they're not willing to take as bigger risks as they once did. And the thing is, I had a teacher, an American teacher, who basically recognized something, which was one thing about America, right, is they say that they're the best in the world with everything. They have so much confidence. It's amazing. And England is very, very good with theatre. They're very good with theatre performances and stuff like that. It's a theatre hub, right? Just like
They're
Melbourne.
very good with comedy as well. They don't really have to try that hard, and it just works. The
But
British comedy.
My point is, right, one thing about Australia is that we criticize our own too much. And because we criticize our own too much, it's very hard for them to flourish in our own country. Like Tina Arena, do you know where she's flourished? She flourished in Paris because she
France,
couldn't
yes.
make it, she couldn't make it in the Australian market because too many people were insulting her. So she skipped to another country and she made it big in France.
Let's get on to the next question. Speaking of our Australian icons, what are their legacies leaving behind? Aaron?
Oh, like there's like because obviously different icons are leaving like different legacies behind. Like I'd say Barry Humphries is like leaving like comedy and the way he used to get away with saying stuff because obviously nowadays you can't get away with like saying like say racial stuff or whatever, you know. But like he as they read tonight used to get away with saying like loads of stuff that you're not allowed to to get away with nowadays, you know. So
Luna?
Sorry.
Oh, go. I'm sorry.
I was going to say that some of these, as Aaron was saying, the thing is, like, Dane Edna made racist jokes as Dane Edna, as the alter ego. Dane Edna, I should say.
Dane.
You know, so Barry Humphries. You know, that wouldn't but the thing is, Barry Humphries is probably gay himself. So
Probably gay. He is gay.
Yeah.
Not probably gay. He is gay.
Definitely.
Maybe he was.
He wouldn't have been a drag queen, otherwise, would he?
My point is that he still made jokes about that and didn't care because he was doing it for the jokes. So if there's any legacy that he can leave behind, it is to say that it is okay to be.
Let's just say this: drag queens are sassy and they're up with the times and they're up to roast somebody. They spill the tea. They're like that anyway. The modern the ones in today's age, for instance, like Barry Humphries would have been perfect in his time. He would have been bold. He would have been funny. He would have made all the jokes that were fitting with society at that moment, which is what all drag queens do. So yes, there is a legacy being left behind there. Drag queens in themselves leaves a massive legacy behind. The way they do things, their style, their fearlessness, their courage to get up on the stage and really be a true entertainer. That is a legacy in itself. And a lot of these, I'm going to say it about Dame Edna, 100% yes. But when it comes to like people like, for instance, Olivia Newton-John, all of those ones, okay, I don't feel like they're leaving too much of a legacy behind, other than that they're Australian.
Yes.
Yeah.
I kind
I
of agree
have
with
to
you.
disagree, but I'll wait to keep my reserves until I hear what everyone has to say.
I definitely believe we have we have lost we have lost a legacy. I Barry Humphries character alter ego Dame Edna, I think he broke the mold. Wasn't he probably one of the first Australians to break the mold as coming out as drag, coming out in
Well,
drag and a different character?
yeah, exactly. It's possible, but I doubt in Victoria there's a large drag scene down here in like certain parts, and I'm guessing a lot of the drag queens, young gays, all those I've met a lot of gay people in high school that would go down there, and they would say that if you want to learn, you go there. So I would assume that Barry Humphries would have done the same thing. He would have been in the underground scene, and he would have built it up from there. But the fearlessness and the boldness that he brings to stage definitely was all him.
I
I don't remember anyone before him.
I reckon the cast of Mrs. Brown's Boys would have a lot to thank Dame Edna for, because
Yeah.
I think if it wasn't for the Dame Edna average character, we probably wouldn't have had Mrs. Brown's Boys. We may not even have Miss Doubtfire. We may not have had Miss Doubtfire as well.
100% true. We probably wouldn't even have that. To even suggest that that could be funny is all really thanks to Dame Edna.
Barry Humphries, yeah. Barry Humphries' alter ego, Dame Edna. We probably would not have had Mrs. Brown's Boys. We probably would not have had Miss Doubtfire. They're the two that can go off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
I'm sure that list would go on.
For me, when I have to respectfully disagree with all of you. Our classic Australian icons have left an a massive indelible mark on our history and on our stages and on our televisions and in society and in our minds and hearts. They have left what no other artist, actor, presenter can do. These shoes that they've left behind are way too big. No matter how hard new icons come about, this is going to be the hardest shoes to fill. Because the reason why I say that, I keep it short. One, are they going to be as loud as our classic Australiana icons? Are they going to be as noisy as our classic Australiana icons? Are they going to be able to break the barrier or the mold and dare to be bold?
Yeah.
And
they're gonna be a whole new generation. Like at the end of the day, like think about Troye Sivan. He's massive in America right now. He's Aussie through and through, and that's the personality. Are you familiar with Troye Sivan? He's a
I've
songwriter.
heard of the name.
Yeah, he's a songwriter. Anyway, his personality is like a new age Australian, I would say. And he is someone that's influencing the younger generation right now from Australia. I believe he's going to be very big in the future.
Can I say something? Okay, so there's two kind of forces, if you will, that I see. One is you have to keep up with the trend kind of thing, which is a force in itself. So this is like the woke movement. And so you have to keep up with society or you'll be, pulled down a leg. The other is maybe, we're never going to see someone like Dame Edna ever again, or all these other old Australian comedians, purely because there needs to be something brand new and fresh. But then you've got a third curveball to that, which is like every business. So when you've got artists like Guy Sebastian, for example, okay, when he was on, what was that show that he was on? Australian Idol. So he literally said, a lot of people think that I've won money when I actually haven't. I'm really just getting a loan from from a producer or something like that, and then you have to work off that loan if you want to become stars. You can become like Nosy and never become famous, or you could work it off like he did, right? And then he becomes famous and moves on to bigger things. So until you basically, you have to understand that music companies today, as opposed to music companies 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago, aren't prepared to take the risk. And that's where you get music and entertainment that's all the same, or quite dull actually, because they're afraid to take risks.
Look, I believe they'll only take the risk if you bring in the views.
Okay. Let's carry this point through. Here's the important question. What will our new Australian icons bring to the table?
A variation of Australian culture plus multicultural culture that international people bring to Australia when they move here. Because they're going to be born into that generation, they're going to have a better understanding on how to communicate with it and how to be more sensitive to both sides. I feel they're going to be able to I believe that they're going to like create a much larger legacy, like Olivia Newton-John. She's got a giant legacy. Do you know what I mean? She's Australian though. That's what you think about her. There's going to be more like that, except they're going to be able to reach more countries with these people because they're going to understand culture way better. They're not going to only have to be able to meet England, America, UK. Do you know what I mean? She is big in other places, like you said, Tina Turner in France, for instance. But however, Tina Turner's not big in, let's say, Germany. These people, these new generations are going to be able to be big in multiple countries. They're going to be top selling artists. I think that's what's coming for us.
Well, the thing we noticed is that there's a brand new Asian market out there that the Australians want to take advantage of. And that's a massive country, right? That brings in a lot of money. And we're kind of, if you notice, the Asian entertainment scene is really taking off.
Massive, yeah.
It's massive, right? So we as Australians would love to take advantage of that. So that's why we're going to send our best, like Delta Goodrem or Jimmy Barnes to China, or John Farnham to China, because
isn't Lisa from Blackpink Australian, or one of the members? One of them's Australian, isn't she? I'm pretty sure.
No. Okay. Let's ask Leon. Okay. What will new Australian icons bring to the table, Leon?
I'm sure they will try to bring a certain element to what the previous generation had, or the previous generation that paved the name for this new generation. But to be honest, I don't think that they could probably hold a candle to what the previous generation did. Although they will try, and I'm sure in their own way they will succeed. But it's a different era. It is a different time now. And the jokes that the previous generation had, they're not going to be able to do unless it's specifically an adults only kind of event. And anybody expecting political correctness here, go away, because they will label that. So that way there's a warning that we don't want political correctness. I don't want to say if I'm a comedian or whatever, I don't want to be tarred with like a racist thing. I will just have a warning on my show, whatever, letting people know this is what's going to happen, and if you don't like it, find another artist to enjoy. I think they'll try, but I don't think they'll be as successful. I think it's a 50-50. You know, I'm going around in circles. I know this, but they will
just
try.
Quickly, guys. So Rose from Blackpink is Australian. There you go. Rose. Her name's Rose.
It's interesting that, Leon, you mentioned the comedians,
She's
because
from New Zealand in Auckland. Yep, go
on. And what actually one of my favorite Australian icons is
New Zealand, you're right, sorry.
Sorry.
one of my favorite Australian icons is just Malboy. Actually, I really like Jess Malboy, but she's half Australian if I'm not mistaken. What's her other? I think it's
Bahasa.
No, she was born in Darwin.
yeah,
Yeah, but
and
her
but
part-
she's
Passing.
she's part something else, and I think I can't remember which type of Asian she is. I don't remember if it's
I think
Thai
it's Indonesian. I
or,
think.
or Indonesian or Philippine.
Yeah,
Something
it doesn't
like that.
matter. It doesn't matter.
But she's mixed.
Indonesian born. There you go. Indonesian born from. Her father is actually from Indonesia, and her mother is an Indigenous Australian. So there you go. You got that Indonesian part of it.
And she's got a tremendous voice, right? So what I'm noticing is that a lot of artists, they go, all right, I'm gonna try and sell tickets at particular concerts all over the world, but then they realize that they've got too much competition with the competition, and they'll go into shows like American Idol, Australian Idol, The Voice, those sorts of things, which just Malboy actually did too. So they all end up on television anyway. And that's about where their musical career kind of ends, because that's where they stay.
Amazingly enough, when you talk about Jessica Malboy, she was actually first discovered by winning the Telstra Road to Tamworth back in 2004. So this was a country music festival that she had actually won in Tamworth, and her first single release, believe it or not, was not was it Running Back featuring Flow Rider. It was a cover of Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Can I ask Aaron as well?
Yep.
What do you think new Australian icons will bring to the table, whether that's in this country or at an international stage?
I think like new icons will bring like a new wave of comedy. Like they're obviously not gonna be like the same as the old generation, but they'll probably still try to mimic what the older generation have done. You know.
Can I say something on that? I think the closest
Yeah.
thing to what the old generation that we have is Jim Jeffries. And Jim Jeffries is really offensive, but he's really funny.
Yeah.
And that is the closest Australian comedian that we have that's anything like what we used to have, because everything else is banned effectively in society. He's literally the only one that's extremely funny but extremely offensive at the same time. If not that, Rodney Root.
That's true.
Speaking of Rodney Rood, he's actually 80 years old now, Rodney Rood. Can you believe that?
Wow.
It's amazing. And have you heard some of the songs that he's written? I mean,
Yes, I have. Those songs would not be appropriate this day or any other day from now on. Maybe in the 80s, maybe, yes.
appropriate at any period of time, but they're
Yes.
very fun. Okay.
All right, let's get into the next one. We got 2 more questions. Here's the next one. You've all brought up great points. Then the current or new or upcoming Australian icons. What will they be willing? Will they be willing to push the boundaries that previous classic Australian icons did? Will they be able to push those boundaries of previous Australian icons? And I'm talking about classic Australian icons. Are they?
I really don't think that people are going to be that bold anymore. I mean, the Australian icons from back in the day, guys, they're very bold for a reason. The Australian way back then was, to be honest, straight up, you know, ringy ting, straight up, the truth, no sugarcoating it. That's how they
were
were.
fearless.
Exactly, and that's what made them that way. But now that we are so, like I keep saying multicultural, but now that we are so multicultural, people are way more sensitive. The people who are born now do not have the same, like they don't have adults in their life just saying anything just because they can, out of courage or out of boldness or out of non-fear, whatever it was. They don't have those influences anymore. They have adults in their life now saying, be kind to children, don't bully, don't do this. So they're not as willing to take those big risks. I don't think, as long as they get the views, I don't think they would push the boundaries. They care more about the views. Let's be honest.
Well, that is actually 100% true. They are just there for the views. But
Yeah.
there is a comedian called Lewis Spears, and I remember when the Queen died, and he made a joke about the Queen, and he didn't realize that the Queen had just died, and he didn't realize that Prince Philip had died as well, and he made a whole comedy thing about it. And at the end of it, he just basically said as quote, you know, you want me to cancel my shift at work because you died? You know, fuck those guys. Seriously.
Yeah, exactly. And now people are much more willing to say, oh, okay, let's compromise. People back then would have been like, nah, too bad for you. Get out of here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aaron, will they be willing to boundaries that previous Australian icons did?
I don't think they'd even dare to push the boundaries of the thing, because everything is so PC nowadays. Like it wouldn't be allowed, to be honest. Yeah.
What do you think, Leon?
She's say Luna or Leon?
Leon.
Leon.
Okay, sorry about that. No, I don't think they would push the boundaries. I don't believe they would, because they're all worried, as what was already said, about political correctness. Oh crap! Did I say something wrong? Oh god, who knows? This is gonna get me kicked off. This is gonna kicked off this planet. How am I supposed to make a living being a comedian
Correct.
or a musician?
If they
now?
get cancelled, exactly, that's it. They have to go and find some other form of income now.
Exactly.
They're not going to risk that. They're not going to risk their cushy, easy job that they enjoy doing.
Oh,
there's
always OnlyFans they can go to.
Oh, well, they're already on there, mate. That's about money. What do you mean? They're already on there.
You're
They'll
probably
get
right.
cancelled
Maybe we
from
should
there
look.
too.
Has anyone got an OnlyFans account? Maybe we should check up on this.
Yeah.
I think that's OnlyFans account. That's what I think.
Don't. I can't. I'm sorry, Dame Edna. I didn't picture that in my head just then.
Oh my god!
I'm sorry, my
No.
queen. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Only Dame account.
Oh no.
Where has Luna
Stop.
gone? There she is.
Well, my honest, I think if they do push the boundaries, I think that is the only thing that it will save Australian comedy, because everything else is just boring.
We're not talking about just comedy. We're talking about
But
general.
okay, but in general, even in music, they will be forced to, because I tell you what, I'll give you a really good example. So I know this is not an Australian example. This is an American example. So everyone loves Frank Sinatra. Well, most people do anyway. And but then you had Michael Bublé. Did Michael Bublé start writing his own songs at first? And the answer is no, he didn't. He copied all of Frank Sinatra's songs and sung it himself, and became really, 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 really popular based on Sinatra's songs. It wasn't until he was writing something. Sorry, it wasn't until he was singing Frank Sinatra songs for at least 3 years that he actually decided to write his own one hit wonder, basically. But my point is that, unfortunately, the music industry today, unless they are pushed to write original music which breaks all the barriers, unfortunately, they are going to slip through the nets like everyone else will.
My opinion, and it's a short one, I believe it's going to be a tough wall to break. The boundaries they may push again will reveal on cancel culture, on the wokeism of Australiana, and I think it's going to be a tough uphill battle. It's the only thing I can say. Good luck. Good luck, and I look forward to your stories being unfolded, because it's going to be quite a tricky one.
My YouTube video has 200 hits.
It's the last question I want to throw to all of us, and we're going to go one by one. Last question is, what is left of the Australian icons or the Australiana of today?
I think we're becoming too American. That's my honest opinion. I think we're becoming way too American, and we're appealing to an American foreign audience instead of our own audience. And it's sad that that's what's happening, but it's true.
Aaron?
Well, there's absolutely nothing to be honest. I think I think you're you're appealing to like international audiences instead of your own, so yeah, the same as fucking
Leon?
I think we are running out of legacy larrikins in Australia. We don't have many left. I can think of one at the top of my head right now, Paul Hogan.
What's the last one?
That's probably maybe the last one standing, maybe, unless anybody can think of other names. I'm just going off the top of my
Guys,
head
we've
right
literally mentioned like 15 names tonight, and half of them are alive. So
Right.
I can only think of one, guys.
I laid out earlier on about 8 of them that were Gonskis.
Yeah. Luna?
Who have we got left?
Simply put,
Johnny Farnham?
I'm not gonna name names here because there is so many left still, and there's so many that have passed away. And you know what? There's people that we don't even know about, guys, from Australian culture that they passed away before our time. That people are sitting there going, I can't believe people don't know about blah blah blah. Like, there's going to come 100%. I tell you now, there's going to come bigger people out of Australia. The people that come out of Australia, you have to remember that we don't have a Hollywood here. So there's not half the population trying to become actors. There's only a small amount. And those ones that make it really do make it. They'll go there and they try.
The Hemsworth fellas, they're making it big in Hollywood.
Look how big their name is. They're gonna when they pass away one day, someone's gonna be like, who is the Hemsworth brothers? And everyone's gonna be like, oh my god, can't you know about the hottest Hemsworth brothers? Like,
oh my god,
there's gonna come more people that fill those roles. Chris Hemsworth didn't exist at one point, and then all of a sudden he was on the scene. And there's going to come so many more that set a precedent for Australia.
We do have a couple of musician Aussie legends at the moment that are still around at the moment. We do. Kat did mention it real quick. Obviously Johnny Farnham. Obviously he's still around. Unfortunately, his health's not that great at the moment. Also Jimmy Barnes as well. There's another. They're both Aussies and they're both larrikins as well because they both have a tendency to go that way. John Farnham especially, he's a larrikin in his own mind.
I forgot to mention we lost Hutchins, Mikey Hutchins.
That was back in 1997 too.
And that was during a time where there were so many Aussie larrikins. We had it was the Australian music scene at that time was just absolutely booming. Okay, that was our best asset at that time. Now, not so much, but look, it's interesting that you said Chris Hemsworth. He plays Thor, right? And
actually, it was Liam.
Sorry, right? No, Liam Hemsworth. He plays Thor, and even though Thor is a Nordic god kind of thing, who's meant to be from Norway, he actually brings his Australian larrikin side out of that character, and he does it so well as well. And I don't think that Thor could be that good of a character if he wasn't Australian, to be perfectly honest. He wouldn't be that funny. He wouldn't be that strong. He wouldn't be that egotistical. And you need characters like that in the Marvel universe.
By the way, it was Chris Hemsworth that was Thor, not Liam.
So I was right the first time. Damn it.
That was Liam.
yeah.
Let's ask Aaron.
Liam's more notable by playing Miley Cyrus.
Oh. I'm not going to let him know you said that, mate.
I can buy myself flowers.
I'm sure she'll write a diss track for me next week.
You know what annoys me so much about that song? She literally just took someone else's song and rewrote the words to it. I could do that. Why am I not famous? I do that every day. I do that every bloody day.
I'll write a song for you, Luna, and I'll let you change the lyrics for it.
Take me immediately, Hollywood. I've got songs for you.
I'll write a song for you, Luna, and then you can change the lyrics for it, all right?
Let's ask Aaron. What's left of Australiana?
I've already answered, haven't I?
Leon.
Yeah.
Leon, everyone's answered, I think.
Leon? Okay, so as a answer, did you?
What's left of it?
I've answered.
I think it's the power to birth itself. I think there always is that intrinsic Australian larrikin within most still. I think it's part of our DNA, and even though you try to cover it up with as many blankets as you can, it will still always be there, and therefore there will still always be a market for it, regardless of what society says. But you know what? The funny thing about society is society changes. And that sometimes there's something deep down inside you needs to just come out, and it will. And that's just how society works. It doesn't stay stagnant. It will go through continuous growth and continuous change.
Of course, with the new technologies, new people, new babies being born, new cars, new foods, different cultures coming in, everything is going to change, obviously.
The only thing I want to say about it is that what is left of Australian is what all of you have summed up to do, is that
Yeah.
there's a proud notion and feeling in the air, and that is, except for Aaron because he's in Wales, he's an honorary Aussie. But for us Australians, there's a proud notion and feeling that we're very proud to be Australian, and whoever comes next, I hope, nay, I pray that they succeed, because it is going to be one heck of a wall that they're going to have to tear down, especially with cancel culture, with wokeism, with watching what they say and do, how they react, how they answer. Being an icon is the highest thing you can do in celebritydom. And you've always got to watch your fans, because your fans are the ones who buy your products, who hang off your every word, who listen to you, who buy your albums, who go to your concerts, who eat your foods, who buy your makeup, this, that, whatever. Just stay humble and be thankful and grateful. And the fact,
I really think Aussies do a great job at that anyway. I think we're a very humble people. We like to be chill. We like to make a joke. We like to, walk past a stranger. Hey, how you going? That's the Australian way.
yeah, we're
Absolutely.
very, like, everyone loves coming to us because we're the country down under. We are just laid back, chill people. That's what we love. And I want to say to Barry Humphrey's family, we are so, so sorry for your loss. May he rest in eternal peace and light. We are thinking of you, praying for you, and sending our love from all of us. Thank you so much for watching us. We really hope you enjoyed this somber podcast. We look forward to the next one with you. I believe it's Broadway musicals is next. So we thank you. Rest in peace, Barry Humphries. Rest in peace, Father Bob. We love you guys so much. Leave us comments below, subscribe, click the subscribe button, hit that bell for more content. I, as always, am Kat. With me is Buckets, Aaron, Leon, and Luna. Thank you so much wherever you are in the world. Good morning, afternoon, early evening, or night. God bless. Stay safe. And we'll see you soon.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.